Okay, so back in 2015, we can see that Professor Dave Chaffee came up with something called the Content Marketing Matrix. Now, this was a simple grid that helps marketers ensure that their campaign has a well-rounded approach. So first of all, he looks at the customer journey, the buyer journey, from raising awareness to actually making the purchase. And then it brings in a very vital element in my mind, that you're dealing with human beings, so it's not just a rational thought process you're going through, but there is an emotional thought process as well. So people don't often think with their heads, but they think with their hearts as well. And so it brings in both elements of that in conjunction with the purchasing journey, which creates, as you can see, 4 very clear different categories of content. So the first is content that is designed to entertain your customer. It works on that emotional awareness. So it's raising awareness of your brand, product, whatever, but on an emotional level to entertain your customers. We then have the inspirational content that, once again, is about that emotional focus, but it's much more pushing you towards the purchase rather than just raise awareness. Then we have the educational level, which is raising awareness through a rational thought process. And then finally, a convincing stage, which is, once again, keeping that rational focus, but pushing them further along that journey, that purchasing decision, to the purchase. So if we look at a very basic overarching campaign, digital marketing campaign, you might see that they have some memes created just to raise awareness of the brand, of the product, etc. So it's in very light-hearted, emotional, awareness raising ways. Or once again, quizzes, slightly lower down in there. It's much more, closer to rational, but it's still done just for something fun. Notice at this point, I will say, these content can fit in any one of the 4 areas. It's up to you to decide how best to use them. Then you might have some influencers, once again, so you have some influencers just to entertain, but in this sense, this content is using the influencers to stick with that emotional phase, but to push that customer along that journey so that they're much more in the purchasing phase. So this is how this campaign is envisioned, using that particular bit of content. Next, it creates some infographics and some guides to educate their customers. Once again, still just raising awareness, but a much more rational, logical thought process of the product. And then they use some case studies or some buyer reviews, etc. So it's much more rational, but it's, once again, pushing them further along that purchasing funnel. So here, as I said, anyone can fit in any other one, but what we're looking at here is creating a nice, well-rounded campaign. So we have different types of content, excuse me, doing different roles and different jobs within that campaign. So some content is there just to purely raise awareness on both an emotional and a rational area, and then some is pushing you further along that purchasing funnel, but once again, an emotional and a rational journey. So if we take this for teaching, so we lose the content, obviously not now so next, we don't want them to purchase anything, but we want them to change. That's the whole point of a learner journey. They've started here, we're raising awareness, and we want them to do something different by the end of our session. So we're educating them, we're developing them, we're convincing, inspiring, and entertaining them to be able to develop, to change, to have an output, whether that be the assessment or just doing things differently after the lesson. So once again, this is not a content marketing matrix, this is a pedagogic content matrix. So you're still using a lot of the same concepts, we're just kind of changing what it's used for. So it's no longer Chaffee's, I'm stealing it. So it's mine adapted from Chaffee's. Okay, so if we look at this, how does this work within a typical session, say? You might first start off with a quiz. So you're going to have a quiz at the beginning. Now, once again, this, as I've said, quizzes could go anywhere. You could actually use the quiz as an educational one. So it helps you understand what they know about the subject, what they don't know about the subject, etc. But for mine, I'm using this quiz just purely as a bit of entertainment. It's just to get them in, get them geared up, get them ready for this lesson. So I'm using my quiz basically on an entertainment level. As I said, I could actually use the quiz as an educational level, so I understand what they know, and then I can shape the rest of the lesson thusly. So this is another concept now we're moving forward a bit about how content can have multiple elements. So we're using a quiz on that entertainment. I just want to get them in, get them focused. It might be that session after lunch, which is always a killer. So you just want to get them in and get them geared up, ready to learn the lesson. Next, I've got some guides, some models, some theories, some concepts that I need to teach them. So this is the education part of my lesson. It's a bit more traditional, didactic, etc. And because I know that's a bit more, say, traditional, a bit more, for want of a better word, not engaging, I'm going to bring in something like a today's word. So I'm going to have the word, a key word within my guide, and every time they see it, first one to shout out wins something. So I'm going to have a little bit of entertainment in there using this today's word concept within my guide, because I know this section here falls a bit on the energy. And to make that well-rounded pedagogic session, I'm doing different elements of the matrix. I then might have some case studies. So I started with a quiz, I went to some guides which then had some today's words in there, and then I'm using some case studies that's going to take these models, these theories, these concepts and put them actually into action and show these are how they work in real life. So you can see how now it's taking the theoretical and implementing it in the real world, which is moving them further along this changing axis. Okay, so they're no longer just aware of this model and concept, they're now seeing how they can use this to change. And then once again, I'm going to get them, I want to go back on the emotional side because it's been very thought heavy and I'm dealing with humans who are just autonomous robots. So I want them to get involved emotionally again. So I'm going to get them to interact with their peers because talking to me, especially within a big lecture, might be quite daunting. So I'm going to get them to do a bit of a pair and share. And then finally might have a demo vision, a demonstration video or something after the session that's showing, oh, this is how you might use it within your assignment or something like that. So you can see here I've got a flow of my lesson, but then I'm not just focusing on this education section. I'm actually understanding that my customers, for want of a better word, my students, both use their heart and their head when they come to this lesson. And I have to make them aware and develop them for the future, whether that be the assignment, future practice, etc. So understanding that there's different types of element of what I can do. And with, as I say, with quizzes, I could use quizzes to educate, I could use quizzes to inspire, it depends how I write them. So using different content within my pedagogic for different reasons helps me create a more rounded content session or pedagogic session.